Welcome back, guys, to another video. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss any videos. And for people really into the Krays, join our private Facebook group, Krays Crime Lords of London, where you will find stuff probably unavailable anywhere else. We're an established group with a large membership, and best of all, we're friendly. The link is in the YouTube description section.
In the 1960s, the London underworld was run by two gangs, the Krays in the East End and, south of the river, me and my brother Eddie, the Richardsons. When the two rival firms trespassed into each other's manor, it meant trouble. My name is Charlie Richardson, and in 1967, I was convicted on charges of violence, fraud, and extortion at an Old Bailey trial, during which the judge described me as a disgrace to society. I got 25 years, but was actually released in 1984. This is my story, told in my own words. I will talk of the world I inhabited, some businesses above board and others less so, involvement with gaming clubs, drinking clubs, the motor trade and strip clubs. I will also talk about mafia connections and friends in the government. My network was very wide indeed. I will tell of all this, of my eventual arrest and, bitterly, my trial. I will speak of the years in Durham and Wandsworth jails and what I learned there. I will reveal all about my escape and the chance encounter which had me back in prison for the final 3.5 years. I will discuss all of my business interests and associates of today. Some of them may find it uncomfortable listening. This isn't a pretty story, but it's a riveting one, and I have much to say on the subject of British justice. I stood in the Old Bailey, court number 1, having been escorted each day by a motorcade that would have flattered the president of a dodgy country. The jury were handpicked by special branch and had been given hotline telephones at home in case we tried to nobble them. The briefs for the Crown were straining at the leash at the smell of a kill. From his high chair, dominating centre court, the judge was ready to umpire a vicious game where daily excitement and drama were a certainty. Justice Lawton was the son of a hated prison governor who, it was rumoured amongst ex-inmates of Wandsworth Prison, was notorious for gloating at men on the way to the gallows. He was known as a hard judge and an ex-supporter of Oswald Mosley's fascist black shirts before the war. At the tender age of 25, he was a young, eager beaver barrister and black shirt candidate for Hammersmith North. Sad, sad little people sitting in the courtroom. Some had queued for hours outside in the grey London morning. What were they expecting? Crowds who turn up to a car race claiming to be auto enthusiasts often secretly hope to see a dramatic and gory pile-up. In what could this morbid bunch pretend such interest as they fought their way into the public gallery of the trial every morning? They could hardly claim to be fascinated by the English legal process. In courts all over London, on the same day, poor beggars were explaining to empty courtrooms why they had peed in the street, or how some goods from Woolworths had found their way into their own pockets. No, this lot had as much chance of pretense as a man shuffling around a pawn shop, claiming to be interested in contemporary literature. Sad little grey people with sad little grey lives. They were hoping for something in the courtroom to bring a spark to their dull existence, to feel the blood racing around their bodies for a few seconds. They were hoping, finally, for an execution, which would justify the insignificant lives they spent waiting for death. We, the accused, had stepped outside the rules and patterns of that living death, We had gorged ourselves on life. We must be punished as a lesson that no one except those born into the elite have the right to escape lives of misery. So the sad little people came, bringing with them the musty smell of their houses. They came to see the torture gang boss. Incidentally, it was 1966, and I was on trial for 5 counts of GBH, grievous bodily harm, together with the 4 others in my torture gang, my brother Eddie, Tommy Clark, Frankie Fraser, and Roy Hall. I say incidentally because those charges were a minor detail in the spectacle that was being created. The trial was a cancer growing fiercely from a tiny lump to a raging, monstrous tumor of tales of the unexpected. All of the lead actors on stage had adapted their roles to suit the hungry desires of a public desperate for drama. It was more like a B-film that I was watching before me, except that I was auditioning as Boris Karloff in the leading role of a horror story. Sometimes I found myself listening to the evidence with the same open-mouthed wonder as those in the public gallery. Occasionally, when a witness was telling a story, I would be sitting on the edge of my seat, wanting to know what happened next. What evil deed did Charlie Richardson do next? Was there no limit to his cruelty? It was a very cheap thriller. I was a little surprised by the legal profession. They were educated boys from the best schools and universities. I thought they might be bored by the lesser intellects of the police force. Not a bit of it. They loved it too. Like the Lord who likes to bang a tart up against the wall of a toilet, they seemed fascinated by the grubbiness of it all. They were the real spectators, privileged to be able to peep into what was for them. The seedy, frightening world of southeast London. Some of it was clearly very confusing to them. They were pleased when references from that other world like Scampi and Chips were understandable to them. How quaint. The case rolled on day after day, a lurid fairy story. The judge and audience had problems keeping up with it all. They sometimes had to listen for hours through complicated business transactions just to get to the really juicy bits. On the 16th day of the trial, they were rewarded with another horror story. James Taggart had just been describing his business connections with me when he started to tell of a time when I was supposed to have dragged him into a car and back to my office. The prosecution counsel was a Mr. Sebag Shaw. How do they get names like that? In the witness box, Taggart was posing as a respectable textiles salesman. The crowded courtroom was hushed as the tale emerged. Sebag Shaw paused for effect and then asked Taggart, "Can you remember any particular parts of your body which were struck in the course of being dragged into the office?" Taggart answered quietly, "A little boy who has fallen over and is looking for sympathy. Yes, I was struck on the head, sir. And what happened inside the office? Well, I was beaten again. My clothes were taken from me. This mention of nakedness sent an electric current through the courtroom. The press scribbled madly, and the court artists sketched with quick sweeps of the pencil, trying to capture the moment when somebody talked about clothes coming off. The old Sebag relished the instant and tried to squeeze whatever advantage he could from it. Just stop there again. Where were you in this office? You have mentioned 3 men, Charles Richardson, Francis Fraser, and Tom Clark." "Yes, sir." "Were all 3 of them there at this time?" "Yes, sir." "Anybody else apart from you?" "No, sir." "And was anything said before your clothes were taken off? Or did they just proceed to do that without anybody giving a direction?" "Not to my recollection, sir." "Can you remember anything about the office that you were in?" Taggart, with help from Sebag Shaw, painted a picture of my office in Camberwell. This was to establish that he knew the office. But more than that, It set the scene for the silent courtroom to imagine, in all the sick and sordid detail, the story that was to follow. A naked man standing in front of three monsters in a scrapyard office. It was a scene delicately described with perverse accuracy, and the damp, smelly minds of the public in the gallery could imagine the tableau before them. To everyone's relief, he got back to the story. You have told us your clothes were taken off. Do you mean right down to your underwear? Yes, my underwear was taken off as well. What about your socks? I cannot recollect, sir. In that condition, what were you doing? Were you standing up or sitting down or what? I was crouched on a box in the corner of the office, a naked, frightened man in a dark office, crouching on top of a box in the corner of the room. It sent a shiver up my spine, and I was supposed to have been there. The whole courtroom was dumbstruck, apart from a few barely audible whispers of fucking hell and Jesus Christ from some members of the public. Old Seabag could see he was making progress. He faced his witness, the star of the show for now at least. Tell me, was anything said at this stage of the proceedings? Yes, Mr. Richardson made a telephone call. What the hell was this Mr. Richardson business from somebody who knew me only as Charlie, or even affectionately as Charlie Boy? The Mr. was for dramatic effect, like Count Dracula, or Dr. Jekyll, Pete Dracula, or Tim Jekyll, just do not have the same ring to them. Playing his role to the hilt, and pleased with the course his rehearsed questioning was taking, Seabag Shaw looked at his witness with all the sympathy of a ham actor. And did you gather from the conversation what the call was about? Yes, he was asking for some type of apparatus. How did he describe it? What did he call it? Well, it was apparatus. I heard the word apparatus or box. He was obviously trying to trace something. Oh no, not this one again. The black box. This was the pride of the prosecution, the delight of the press, and the invention of an ambitious policeman. The black box, it would have to be black, wouldn't it? Was supposed to be a generator we had apparently used to torture people with. The court had already heard several days before how we had connected the wires to somebody's testicles and wound the handles to give him a shock. The soggy grey people had sparked to life, and the bright young vultures in the press benches had almost jumped out of their seats. The prosecution had looked at the defense in triumph, while some of those present in court secretly envied the man with the electrodes on his testicles. The story went on that we had shoved one up his arse. I am sure that I caught a lawyer blushing. It was probably the sort of thing he got up to at public school. The cleverness of this story was in the sharp evil it portrayed. If we had just proceeded to beat somebody about the head with a lump of wood, it would have been violent, but not so evil, not so sexy. When you bring out a black box with a handle and wires, and you connect it up to somebody's testicles, there's a ritual involved, and the British love ritual. The inventor of this story had a thorough grasp of the British psychology. He should have been in advertising. Old Seabag wanted to pursue the box for all it was worth. Could you gather from the part of the conversation you were able to hear whether the box was available or not? Taggart wanted to get as much as he could from this too. We were all dying to know if the box was produced. It appeared that the box was not available. Now who talks like that? This pathetic toe rag was trying to speak courtroom language, trying to be accepted as part of the game that was being played by his betters. I had tried that once. I had spent my childhood with a very healthy contempt for my so-called betters. But when I got into business as a young man, I tried hard to join their club. I had swallowed pride, suspended intelligence, and even sometimes a little dignity to listen to their shit for years. I tried to ingratiate myself not to be like them, but as a good business move, I realized that they had taken centuries to develop an incredible and intricate system of control and authority. I wanted to be on their side of the line, to understand and play by their rules, but the thousands of rules in their game are so ancient and complex that the players have to understand them instinctively. It was in the blood that flowed through their spoilt inbred veins. I realized my mistake. If you are not a blood brother, then you just cannot join. The most you can do is grovel low at their feet and kiss their soft fat asses, and they just might grant you a superficial tolerance for your money. I was not prepared to do that. I played outside the rules and without their cloak of respectability and protection. But by 1966, the establishment mafia of power recognized me as a dangerous rival from an unfamiliar source. The police could not stop burglary in South London, but I did. If anyone broke into a house on our territory, our manor, they would get a clip round the ear, take the stuff back, and be directed to the West End to thieve from those who could afford it. Meanwhile, the police would be filing incident reports. Power is a delicate thing. I understood at an early age that power is also the most exciting sensation a person can enjoy. I was born in 1937 in Twickenham, but we soon moved to Widham Road in Camberwell. My mother and my little brother Eddie lived with our grandparents above their sweet shop. My dad was a merchant seaman and a scallywag, so we did not see him very often. I got no stars for attendance at school. It was a musty old dungeon where you sat with your hands behind your head and recited your times tables. I was too interested in learning about real things to waste much time there, but I did learn one vital lesson of life at school. We were sitting at a big table at dinner, a large group of boys. One boy, much bigger and older than me, kicked me with incredible ferocity under the table. A massive bump started to grow over the bone of my shin, and blood dribbled out of the broken and bruised skin. The other boys at the table stared with agitated anticipation. I was known to be a little hard case, and despite the odds, they expected me to throw myself over the table and tackle him. Without thinking twice, I did not wince. Instead, I looked him in the eye, then smiled and leaned forward. "You missed, you twat. You've just kicked the bloody table leg." Bloody was pretty strong language in those days. My eyes twinkled at him. It was my dad's twinkle. He was famous for it. It can be warm and funny, but the same twinkle can scare the shit out of you with its ice-cold cruelty. The other boys had stopped breathing. My gaze did not falter for a second while his eyes filled with tears, and he ran away. I looked around the table, smiling and twinkling, and returned to my dinner. The other boys stared at each other, oblivious to the fact that I had a throbbing lump on my leg, and yet I wanted to jump up and dance around with joy. My ecstasy was not from beating him. I was jubilant because one of life's great secrets had just been revealed to me. Some people spend their whole lives not knowing how the world works. I knew at 8 years old. It was as if I could take a motorbike to bits and put it back together again, so that I was the master of the bike and not a victim of its mysteries. Knowledge is power, yes, but knowledge of power and how to control it became my hobby, almost my obsession. Also in that dingy old school, I learned that I do not really feel pain. Since that day, I cannot think of a time that I was upset at all by it. Not physical pain anyway. I have howled with grief and anguish and screamed with frustration, but punch me in the face, and I will smile and twinkle at you, and you will tremble at that twinkle. I am not a religious freak or a masochist. I have never gone out looking for pain. I simply learned at an early age that the pleasure of controlling pain overcomes its physical impact. Power over pain is stronger than pain itself. 24 years later, as I stood in the dock, I realized that I had probably pushed the experiments with power too far. For so many years, I had juggled people, institutions, businesses, and all the established miters of power. All the skittles came crashing around me in 1966, and now here I was, listening to tales of visualized torture with a black box. But with Taggart, it appears we could not get hold of the box. I almost felt sorry for the press, who had been yapping around my feet for weeks. I wanted to say to Taggart, "Go on, give them the box." I almost felt sorry for him too. He must have been terrified to give this evidence. If I was such a monster, with a gang that held Southeast London to ransom, it was remarkable that Taggart was more frightened of the establishment than of me. This black box story was straight out of the sewer and aimed at the gutter press. But it did worry me, because with a story like that, I realized they were not going for a bent businessman who gave some petty villains the odd smack in the face. They were not looking for a few years' porridge for me and my friends. They were creating a monster to be locked away forever. That concludes this first part of my story. Thank you for listening to it, and I'll see you in the next one.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please join our Facebook group. It's called Krays Crime Lords of London. We're a friendly moderated group with over 1,000 Kray and other celebrated gangster videos available for view. There's also thousands of images in the photos sections. The link for the group is in the YouTube description section. I hope we see you there soon.
Leave a like and subscribe.